I'm going to go through a few things about Petscan. So first I'll give you a bit of an overview of the tool, and then we'll go through some sample queries with it. How to find articles to translate from one language to another, articles that need improving, like maybe they're short or maybe they've got some editing templates on them. You can find Wikipedia articles with Wikidata items that need improving. You can use it to find Wikipedia articles missing from list articles. You can use it to find Wikipedia articles that don't have a Wikidata item attached to them yet. And the last thing I'll show you is how to search structured data on Wikimedia Commons using Petscan. So this is the Petscan tool. You'll find it here on wmcloud.org. And this is front page. If you click manual, there is a useful meta page here that goes through how to use the tool in a fairly sort of high level way. It has some useful information though that I would just like to point out. Scrolling down this table, there are particular ways of referring to different wiki projects, and so this table gives you some clues about formats for those names, which you might find useful. There's information about Petscan ID, so that's a identifier for a search that you did that you can use in other tools. And some information about the creator functionality. So I will show you how to use it to find items, Wikipedia articles without a Wikidata item, but it enables some particular features in the tool. So there's a description of those here. And then there are some examples down the bottom here, which you can also access from within the tool. Okay, so let's look at Petscan. Now I was just talking about examples. So up here, if you click that, you'll get a list of examples, and you can click on the blue linked text to access that example, and you'll be able to see all the settings that someone used to do that. So it's quite a useful place to have a look when you're getting used to the tool. Up here, you can turn your view to a list view where you see everything at once. That's not so convenient for showing people on screen, so we'll stick with tabs today. So at the front page, you're working with categories. You set your project up here, depth of categories, how to combine those categories and categories you want to exclude. And you can change the project you're working with here. The next tab is page properties. So you can filter your results by the size of the page, by when it was last edited, whether it has redirects, whether it has an image or not, or a score. Templates and links. So this is where we can query pages or indeed talk pages for particular templates that might appear. Other sources, you can put a Sparkle query in here. I mostly use this tool because I'm not very good at Sparkle, but you can put things in here. For instance, that's meant to be one way of restricting a search to, for instance, humans, but I've never got that to work. Then the last tab, Wikidata, is where you can specify Wikipedia pages with certain properties on their Wikidata item or certain site links, labels down here. And then the last tab is output, so you can set it to sort the results in a particular way, perhaps by incoming links is quite useful. You can select red links down here. So these are settings worth playing with. All right, but let's do some examples. If we want to find Wikipedia pages we can translate from one Wikipedia to another, Petscan's pretty good at that. So let's start with English Wikipedia. I'm going to look at the category New Zealand scientists, and I'll keep it fairly shallow. And then on the Wikidata tab, I want to add a different language Wikipedia. So what I'm saying is the Wikidata item should have none of these site links, and put which one I'm looking for here. So Wikipedia articles on New Zealand scientists, English Wikipedia, that aren't covered on Italian is quite a long list, 1,591, unsurprisingly. But what about if we try it the other way around? So if we go to Italian Wikipedia and we say, are there any New Zealand scientists covered on Italian Wikipedia that aren't in English? If I want to do that search, though, I'm going to need to know the name of the Italian category, not the English category. So I can do that. Here's the Wikipedia page for the category. I can just go to Wikidata and find the name of the category from the Wikidata item by looking through the labels or looking down the list here. Otherwise, the other way to find it, either up here in the top right or down here in the sidebar, you'll have languages, and you can just go to the corresponding category on the other language and get the title there. So there's multiple ways to find it. Scienziati neozelandesi, excuse my accent. There we go, and I'll just paste that in. So Wikidata, I want to make sure this time that they're not on NWiki. Okay, and I might increase the depth a bit because this is going to be a much smaller list. But these are potential targets to translate to the English Wikipedia. Let's have a look. 7 results. So these articles might be worth looking at to see if they're people who are of interest in English Wikipedia. And I almost forgot to show you, you can play around with the output of this. So if you've got a much longer list and you're interested in prioritizing important articles, one way you could do that would be looking at sorting it by incoming links. Rather than, I think it sorts by size as a default. Now our list is only short, so it doesn't matter, but it will give you a different order to your list, which with a long list can be quite useful. All right, so we're going to find articles to improve by length. So on the front page of Petscan, in the Categories tab, I'm going to specify the Wikipedia I want to work in, which is English. Let's pick a category. So I've chosen category New Zealand Architects. I'm just going to copy the category name. It's a good habit to get into. It's really easy to misspell a category name here or misremember what it is, and then your Petscan query doesn't work quite right and it takes a while to figure out why. So if I just run that query as it is, I will find all 94 people in that category. Let's just double check. Going down, pages in category, 94 of them. So we've got all of them, but not the people in the subcategories. So if we want to include subcategories, we need to change this depth parameter. I can go downwards to include parent categories, or I can go upwards to include subcategories. Let's just pick 4. I don't know how many subcategories they are. I could just play around to find out. Right, so now I've got 350 pages. This includes people and buildings. And I want to find things that need improving by length. So now I'm going to go to the Page Properties tab. And I'm going to say the article was smaller than a certain size. Let's say 3,500 bytes. And we'll do it. And so we'll find the small articles in here. They may or may not be categorized as stubs, but at least I know that they're small. Let's take a look. And this article's definitely got room for improvement, right? So if I'm building a list for myself or for an editathon or something, this is an easy and quick way to find a list of articles. You can, of course, combine categories if you're only interested in some of these articles. So let's say I only want the people. You are meant to be able to go to other sources and put a Sparkle query in here that will limit it to people. It breaks the tool every time I try that. I'm obviously not doing it right. So the way that I found I can make it work is to just put Q5 here. Q5 is Wikidata Speak for Human. And if you put that in here, it'll only use Wikidata items that are using this value somewhere in them, which is a pretty good proxy for people who are actually humans. So now if I run the query again, I only get 45 results, and it's got rid of all those building articles that I had. So there we go. That's a way to look for articles that need improving by length in the English Wikipedia in a particular category. So if we want to look for Wikipedia articles, let's say in a particular wiki project that have got editing templates on requiring attention. Let me blank out my existing query. I've got some settings already in these tabs, so I'll just click Petscan to go back to a blank form. And I want to look for pages in Wiki Project New Zealand. And what template should we go for? There's orphan, we could have citation needed. So you can just combine templates like this, just add them as in a list here. I'm actually just going to restrict it to orphan so that we don't get too many results. Bear in mind, orphan template goes on the article itself, whereas of course Wiki Project New Zealand goes on a talk page. So don't forget to click the use talk pages underneath this box here. You could of course exclude templates where you don't want to be looking at things in the list. So if we do it, let's see what we get. I think there'll be a couple of hundred articles here. Yep, 204 orphan articles that people in Wiki Project New Zealand might want to look at. And of course, if we wanted to narrow that list further, we could do things like adding categories, putting in the size of the article. You can also do things like whether it has an image or not. Let's try and see if any of these don't have an image. And there's an aura score setting there as well. So it's worth playing around with all of these filters and adding things and taking them off again and seeing what you get. 151 articles here with no image and with an orphan tag on them. One of the things we can do with Petscan is look for Wikipedia articles that have information, for instance, in the category structure that helps us to improve their Wikidata item. So, for instance, maybe we'd look for a category of people by occupation and check if their Wikidata item had that occupation. Or we can look and see what I'm going to show you now, buildings and structures. Are they missing a coordinate location? Let's try that one. I'm going to use the category buildings and structures in New Zealand by type. Just going to paste that category in. Let's just give it a depth of 1 so we don't get overwhelmed with results. And we're going to go to Wikidata and we'll say P625, which I believe is coordinate location, and none. So we're looking for Wikipedia pages where the corresponding Wikidata item does not have a coordinate location. Okay, so let's go to that page, click do it, and see what we get. Here we go, 23 results. You'll see some of them are lists, which you wouldn't expect to actually have a coordinate location. This museum's actually a virtual one, so that's not going to have one either, but there are some things here, some buildings that ought to have a coordinate location and don't yet. So those would be useful things to look at. We could make this deeper, but I'm going to use this as an example of how you can get some unexpected results. So if I make that just 2 subcategories deep, I get 333 results, but some of them are not things that I'm expecting. For instance, suddenly I'm getting people, and quite a few of them. And some might be architects, but others are not. So what are they doing here? Well, I took a look and I can't think who it was, so I won't show you. But, oh, it's this guy, Guy Schofield. He's on the list. And the reason he's on the list is that he's a librarian. And so down in his categories, he's got New Zealand librarians. And if we look at New Zealand librarians, the category New Zealand librarians sits within libraries in New Zealand. So we're catching him that way. So if you really want to exclude certain types of pages from your Petscan, then you might have to get creative about how you do that. Sorry, this was the Petscan tab. So for instance, we might say negative categories, people, okay, and exclude people from the result. And then we've only got 305, and there might be some other things. Obviously, we've still got Tony Steele, possibly because he's deep enough in the subcategory tree that 2 levels on people isn't going to get him. So I could, I could change this, but you get the idea. So one thing we can do with Petscan is look and see which articles are linked to each other on Wikipedia. So for instance, we have a category called New Zealand Women Architects. and I can search that category. If I look, it doesn't have any subcategories, so I don't need to worry about the depth of it. And what I'd like to do is check if they're all included on the list of New Zealand architects. So we'll paste that in. Where am I going to put it? This goes in the Templates and Links tab, and it's the linked from, so you can check what links to, what links from, and templates on this tab. And I'm going to go none of these pages and just paste it in and do it. Pretty straightforward. We'll get a list of 36. So we've been busy creating articles for architects, but we haven't been so good about adding them to our list article. And now I don't need to do that check by hand. Petscan's done it for me. So if I want to find Wikipedia articles with no attached Wikidata item, it's a fairly straightforward query. On Petscan, I'll go to Templates and Links and put in Wiki Project New Zealand. You could do this with categories as well, of course, however you like to find your pages. And Wiki Project New Zealand appears on talk pages, so I have to remember to click that talk pages instead. Then you want to go to the Wikidata tab and go only pages without an item. Okay, and it's reminding you that's going to enable a specific mode in the tool, so you'll see some things in the results you don't see otherwise. Let's do it and see what we end up with. So here's our completed search for Wikipedia articles in Wiki Project New Zealand with no attached Wikidata item. There's 35 of them at the moment, and you'll see these little checkboxes. Some of them are ticked and some are not. This is because there's a special Wikidata item creation mode for the Petscan tool, which lets you create Wikidata items for these articles using quick statements up here. I'm not going to show that because I haven't actually used that functionality, but I think that's why some things are ticked and some are not. The tool has checked is there a matching thing on Wikidata, and if it didn't find something, it's ticked it as in you might want a new article. And if it thinks there are potentially matching things, it hasn't ticked it because you should double check Wikidata. I would strongly suggest you double check Wikidata anyway, because I do know some of these things that are ticked have items. But let's look what happens if you do check Wikidata. Here's a person, Jim Henderson, the writer. If I click check Wikidata, it's not going to take me to Wikidata. It's going to take me to a tool called Duplicity, which is amazing because it shows you the Wikipedia article in question alongside a Wikidata item. So James Herbert Henderson, New Zealand writer, historian and broadcaster, is not this unspecified Jim Henderson who is a musician, nor is he a baseball player, a Wikimedian, a Canadian politician, but oh look, New Zealand writer and radio broadcaster. Maybe not such an uncommon name though. Maybe I want to check out the details, so you can scroll all the way down here, see birth dates and places, and you can expand sections of the Wikipedia article if you want to check things like that. So I'm happy this is the same person. I'm logged into the tool, so I can just add there, and that will do that link between the Wikidata item and the Wikipedia article, just like that. And I can go back to my Petscan query and check for more. All right, to search structured data on Commons, let me just refresh the tool to get rid of all the settings I've just been using and start again. So we're going to select Commons as the place that we're searching. The next thing to do is go to Page Properties and check File. That's a really easy step to forget. Okay, other sources. This is where I'm going to specify the structured data, and the way I do it is with has WB statements. So I've got two statements here. The first one says find me instances of, and this is the QID for line art. And then this one says P180, so depicts, and then this one's a unicorn. So let's find line art depicting unicorns. And I need to put Commons Wiki again in here. Now if I autocomplete, for some reason the red exclamation mark doesn't disappear, and then the do it button will still be grayed out. So that's just a little catch to watch out for. Okay, and if we do it, we get 46 results, and you'll notice this way we get all the titles, but we can switch to thumbnails and actually see our line out of unicorns, which is quite cool. And if I give it time, then it'll appear. Thank you to user Jeremy for that suggested structured data on commons query.